Well, some of us felt Tinubu a Democrat. President Tinubu today, who was a Democrat yesterday, believed in restructuring of this country. Restructuring of this country is the only thing that I believe, or the Niger Delta believe, will propel Nigeria to the greater height. When you talk of restructuring, talk about physical restructuring through federalism, where a region produce whatever they can produce and pay tax to the federal government, the center. Like the 1966 Constitution, where every region will produce and the percentage will be paid to the center, for the center to run the government. So we, the Niger Delta, still believe in the 1960 Constitution that the country should be restructured in such a manner that it will encourage each region to work hard to generate revenue for the daily administration of their government. A situation whereby if a region produces cocoa or granite or solid mineral or petroleum oil and gas, that region should be able to manage that resources. We are talking about resource control, where we can control our resources and contribute to the center for the running of the federal government. That is the kind of a structure we want. That restructuring is lacking in Nigeria, and that is why you can see that most states are going cap in hand, begging at the center for resources. You can see them going for monthly federal allocation meeting, just to share money by the Accountant General or the Central Bank of Nigeria, giving them whatever share they want to give them. But if the country is structured in such a manner to physical federalism, and each region is allowed to manage its own resources, I think there will be competition among the various regions, and that will enhance growth in Nigeria. And that will take Nigeria to the center stage, where we can compete favorably with other countries in Africa and in the world. But without restructuring, and we allow things to go where a particular region will lay the golden egg, and the end that the golden egg is not attended to, or is not taken care of, or where a particular region produces the fattest cow that brings the milk, and you suck the milk without giving back that milk, that cow will die. So that is what we are facing now in this country. And so the Niger Delta states believe that this country should be restructured. In 2014 Constitutional Conference, that was our main discussions. But the people of Nigeria at that point, because they are majority, refused to understand. They failed to understand that there is no part of this country that is not blessed with resources. Every part of this country have one mineral resources or the other. So what we are trying to say is encourage the state, challenge the states, let them develop their mineral resources so that it will go further to improve the GDP of Nigeria. We can generate our revenue, and whatever revenue we generate, let us pay a percentage to Nigeria. Because the way things are going, the oil and gas industry in Nigeria is produced by the Niger Delta. The Niger Deltas are not allowed to manage the oil and gas. But the gold is Zamfara. It's going to the government of Zamfara. The iron ore in Kogi is going to Kogi state government. The bitumen in Sokoto, the bitumen in some part of this country, Ondo, is going to these people who are running the bitumen. The Gibson and other things that come from Sokoto, they are getting the benefit. It's not going to the federal government. So we are saying that every region, every state is allowed to promote the resources, manage the resources, and pay a percentage in form of tax to the federal government. If that is done, every state, every region will struggle, and there will be competition like the olden days when we had groundnut pyramid, we had cocoa, we had palm oil, we have palm kernel. These things can still be reactivated. We have a lot of palm trees that are not attended to in the south. The groundnut pyramid has vanished, but we can still have more groundnut pyramid. The soil is still there, but there's no competition. And so we are saying, let's go back to the 1960 Constitution, where every region is allowed to generate revenue and take a percentage. 50 is 50%, let 50% goes to what you generate, and 50% go to the federation account. That is what we are advocating for.
So, sir, still talking about the restructuring, how can restructuring be implemented without threatening national security or widening economic disparity among states?
The restructuring would never affect this country in any way. It would rather increase productivity in Nigeria. There will struggle, there will be competition. Restructuring, particularly physical restructuring, will encourage competition in Nigeria. Because the Niger Delta will not only think of oil and gas. Don't forget, in Edo State, we have a lot of mineral resources too. Calabar, Cross Rivers also have a lot of mineral resources. We will all enhance our mineral resources and ensure that we generate revenue, and 50% of those revenue will go to federation. And the taxes will also go to both the federation account and also the various state government. So it will not affect anybody. It will help us. It will help the country.
And you think the country will have a national unity as before?
Of course, because if everybody is contributing 50%, we're no longer going cap around begging. Then the sharing formula will no longer be there. Whatever you produce, you have your percentage. Go and manage your state. Go and manage your region. Everybody will think of how to improve on the resources they have. They will go and mine more. I'll give you an example. The oil and gas deposit we have in the Niger Delta, this country cannot finish consuming it or exporting it in the next 100 years. But yet, we are not producing enough. Even if you are producing 10,000 barrels per day, in the next 100 years to come, the fossil oil in Nigeria, in Niger Delta, will not finish. The gas we have, for the next 200 years, we cannot be able to finish the gas, even if you are going above 1 million cubic feet of gas every day. We cannot finish it. The gas reserve is big. But because the regions are not involved, federal government takes everything and gives them peanut. So nobody cares. That is where we have problem. And because of that, even the NNPC today, as we operate today, cannot account for how these resources are being managed. The Senate is asking them to come and produce evidence of what they do with the 210 trillion unaccounted resources. This will not happen if the state government is running it. But the various states will know how they run their resources and pay the federal government. The federal government will also be able to audit the state government to be sure that they are giving them what they're supposed to give them. But today, as it is, the NNPC cannot account for 210 trillion naira that has been generated through the oil and gas. Beside that, look at the present crops of NNPC. We are shouting at Niger Delta, give us the GMD, strong CEO. But let H.R.H should be retired and let the Niger Delta son or daughter takes over. Mr. President, in his wisdom, refused to give that office to a Niger Delta son. And he gave it to somebody from Kwara, Bayo Ojulari. who had never visited Niger Delta one day since he became GMD. Neither has he visited the refineries today or the oil producing companies. What is his business? He sees a lot of money. His concern is how to spend the money, not how to generate money. If he's from the Niger Delta, he will know the impact of oil production in the Niger Delta. I can tell you, the discovery of oil and gas in Nigeria might be a blessing to Nigeria, but it's a cost to the Niger Delta and the oil-bearing communities. We are suffering the brunt of oil production. We are suffering the pollution, the air pollution, the water pollution, the ground pollution, the soil pollution. We are suffering it. Our seas are polluted. Our waters are polluted. Our farmlands are polluted because of oil production. And yet, what are we getting in return? Zero. The oil companies are accountable to the federal government. Therefore, they bring their people from all the place and deprive the Niger Delta sons and daughters of employment, having destroyed our traditional occupation of fishing and farming. And we are just left without anything. Today, Nigeria, instead of producing up to 10 million barrels of crude oil per day, we are reducing to less than 1.5 million barrels of crude oil per day. OPEC gave us 2.4 million per day. Even in the midst of this crisis between Iraq, Israel, and America, Nigeria cannot produce enough crude oil to fill the gap, because the GMD we have today does not bother, does not concern him. And despite the peace we have in the Niger Delta, it's not doing enough to enhance production. This is the time Nigeria can produce up to 4-5 million barrels per day. But we are not doing that. We are not even meeting up with the OPEC quota. In the past, we blame it on militancy. Today, there is no militancy. You spend so much money to protect oil pipeline, but you are not spending any money to support the oil-bearing communities or the pipeline communities. There are no developments in these areas, despite the NDDC or the PIA that was set up. And so we are saying that if we are managing our resources, we can be able to manage it in such a manner that we will get peace in our region, and you can increase production to be able to meet up with OPEC quota as well as meet up with our demands. Our terrain is very difficult to develop. For instance, the major oil producing areas in Rivers State do not have oil, do not have road. Go to Kola, there is no road to Kola. There is no road to Soku gas plant. There is no road to Sagama, which is close to Soku. There is no road in Edama, very few kilometers from Abonima. There is no road to K or Mile. These are major oil-bearing communities. Elon Karabare, Cotton Channel, there is no road to all these places. And yet, every day you are taking oil and gas from these areas. The LNG itself is dependent on Soku gas plant and the Neme Creek. And yet, there is no projects there that can commensurate the volume of oil and gas that is coming from this area. Because somebody somewhere is managing it who does not even know where Soku is, where Kola is, where Mile is, where K is, where the local Kalabari is, or where Endama is. So how can they think of developing this area? But if there is a resource control, those controlling the resources will know that this is where it is coming from, so they need to water it. And that is what we need in the Niger Delta. And I think if we are managing the resources, besides oil and gas, and like I said, there are minerals in Edo, outside the oil and gas. There are minerals in Cross River, outside the oil and gas. There are also what we call the black sand across the Niger Delta coast, which is also another use of resources. Black sand is what they use to produce jewelries. And we have them in abundance in the Niger Delta region. So these resources, if we are having resource control, we should be able to manage them in such a manner that it will help. I will come back to the NNPC. NNPC is very sick today. If you can remember, last year we insisted that H.R.H should be retired, having served 35 years in office and having been over 60 years. And this became a major controversy. And we insisted also that when H.R.H is retired, a Niger Delta son or daughter should be made the GMD and the CEO. But instead of doing that, Mr. President, in his wisdom, decided to bring Bayo Ojulari from Kwara State. As the people of Niger Delta, we expected to see what he will do. But I can speak to you from the days appointed to today. He has never found it fit to meet with the leadership of the Niger Delta. He has never met with Pandef, neither has he met with oil-bearing communities. The first thing he did was to retire all the MDs of the refineries and put allegations on them, unsubstantiated allegations. Warri refinery was 95% completed. Port Harcourt refinery was about 98% completed after rehabilitation. He refused to allow them operate. He shut them down, changed the MD, refused to pay contractors who handled the rehabilitation. And today he's planning of selling this public asset to themselves, thinking that they can get away with it. The refinery itself contributes a lot to the federal government and to Nigerians. When a barrel of crude oil is produced, refined, it produces what you call AGO, diesel. It produces PMS, that is a petrol. It produces DPK, kerosene. It produces naphtha, which the petrochemical plant use. It produces low pump fuel oil, which higher power food industrial plant also use. It also produces high pump fuel oil used by the industrialists. It produces lubricant, engine oil, all this you are saying is from the crude oil. It produces wax. It also produces insecticides, chemical that they can use to produce insecticides, mosquito this, all that, fumigations and so on. LPG, the gas, is also produced in the refineries. And nitrogen and other gases. But instead of allowing the refinery to do all this, NNPC management and their collaborators believe that it is better to refine outside the country. When you refine outside the country, you are not returning all these other components. You don't return DPK kerosene, you don't return naphtha, you don't return low pump fuel oil, you don't return high pump fuel oil, you don't return even the LPG or the nitrogen. So all these byproducts are given to the country where you are producing it. But besides, you also lift the petroleum, the crude oil, pay freight, hire a vessel, pay shipping company charges, pay port charges at the point of the charge. When they finish producing and leaving the other component beside the diesel and the PMS, the other producers are supposed to benefit. They come back, you still pay freight, you still pay port charges, you still pay all those other costs and bring it to the country, and that is why our petroleum product is high. Who are the vandals? Who are the oil theft? You have the Navy that is entrusted with the responsibility of protecting the Nigerian waters. Most of these oil and gas industries are in the waters, and the Navy has not been able to stop oil theft. And so you go to local contractor who can be able to protect the place. But you are forgetting that the amount of money you are paying, the $35 million every month, if you are using that to develop the oil-bearing communities, you would have been able to empower the oil-bearing communities to protect the pipeline, as well as be happy that oil and gas has given them succor. Oil and gas has been able to develop them. But you don't develop these oil and gas communities and you are busy paying people to protect the pipeline. Who are the biggest thieves? The Niger Deltas are poor. So who is doing the oil bunkering? And why are they doing the bunkering? But if the communities are empowered, they will fight to protect each area. If every community in the Niger Delta protects its own area because they are empowered to do so, and if the law of the land also empowers the traditional rulers to exercise powers as traditional rulers, they can give instruction to the security agencies or call the security agencies and to listen to them. I don't think we need to spend that huge resources to protect pipelines.
On the port issue, the proposed Bonny deep sea port, don't you think maybe the government is working on the Bonny deep sea ports? And to you, if the Bonny deep sea port come alive, of what benefit do you think it will have to the states?
Well, we are talking the same thing. You see, the Bonny seaport was delayed because there was no road. We talk of light reach, using barges, using the smaller vessels to transship. But with the road network, the Bonny deep seaport cannot be effective because you carry your goods straight through the road to anywhere you're going. I don't see why the Bonny deep sea port can be delayed when Tinkan Island port can be activated. Bonny deep sea can be able to carry a lot of freight like Tinkan or Apapa. Now, the annoying thing is you are not helping the eastern ports, including the Bonny deep sea, but you are building terminal ports across the west and the north. Whereas in the east, that is naturally given with water, that we have natural waterway, you are not giving us anything. And you want us to support you, you want us to work for one Nigeria, you want us to believe that there should be no restructuring. I think that cannot work. If we are restructured, I think everybody will think of how to effectively utilize the natural resources God has given to us.
Okay, let's look at the Bakassi resettlement. Years after Bakassi Peninsula handover, many displaced residents still struggle with resettlement challenges. What support do you think can be provided for them?
Well, you see, PANDEF, Bakassi is one of the 16-point agenda of PANDEF. We still have IDPs, the camps, that are not well funded. You see that part of Bakassi, traditional home of Nigerians who are in Bakassi to Cameroon. You have not been able to rehabilitate them. You have not been able to give them new roads, new homes where they can stay. Even the oil and gas in Bakassi, you seated them to Cameroon. And you are not making effort. I can remember in most of our meetings in PANDEF, Baba Bakassi, Senator Itagiwa, will be crying and shouting for Bakassi. We are saying federal government under Tinubu should revisit the Bakassi issue. A lot of them have not been settled. The IDP camps are suffering. And we are saying, Mr. President, your predecessors have ceded Bakassi to Cameroon. Try and resettle those people so that the Cameroon jihad will not be able to be harassing them every day. They are being harassed every day. They cannot go to a river to fish. They cannot do it. Even the oil wells are taken from them. The ancestral land has been taken from them. And federal government is not doing enough to compensate them. But you can see them to Cameroon. If you want them to join Cameroon, come out and tell them you go to Cameroon. But if they are Nigerians, federal government should protect Nigerians. The difference between America and most of the countries, America will protect their sons and daughters. By all means, even if it means killing everybody. But Nigeria, we don't care. Nobody cares for the Niger Delta. Even though it's part of the 16-point agenda, and Buhari assured us he was going to do something. Nothing has happened. Tinubu, you are our in-law. President Tinubu, you are a Democrat. We are saying revisit the Bakassi issue. It's a painful issue. It's a painful experience. Our graves are there. Yet he seated them to Cameroon. Our oil wells are there. You gave them to Cameroon. Our people are not being resettled. Please, Mr. President, kindly look at the Bakassi issue. It's a very fundamental issue to the people of Niger Delta. Where one state is injured, it's to address all the Niger Delta. Bakassi is part of Niger Delta. And as the people of Niger Delta, we are saying revisit the Bakassi issue, Mr. President.